I'm Logan T. Smith from Opinion Subject to Change, here to talk about You Only Live Twice from 1967. But first, this video is not sponsored by GIE's Extendable Barbecue Flashlight Lighter for when you need to set fires in the dark. With a screenplay by British author Roald Dahl, 1967's You Only Live Twice, starring Sean Connery, really shows its age. That said, it has an excellent plot and an excellent story. The plot revolves around James Bond needing to solve a mystery described as the big one, just like every other James Bond movie, before the villains can start a world war. And it works. It's a great story. It's fun to watch, and it's exciting. There's some really good, exciting moments in it. There's an excellent helicopter sequence and some pretty good fight scenes as well. There is, however, some pretty bad stuff too. The acting in it is mostly okay. Large fight scenes, the acting is terrible. They look like they'd fit in Adam West's Batman, which I think was meant to be a comedy. I don't think this movie was meant to have those scenes come off as funny. But they do. The pacing of the film is very similar to other Sean Connery 007 films. The ending, the climax, is way better than I expected in the context of the film. It's exciting and it's excellent. It fits just right. It ends exactly as a Bond film should end. The sets and cinematography are very good for the most part. Some of the scenes are excellent. There's some explosions that are great. Like I mentioned, the helicopter sequence is superb, except for the miniature work in it and some of the other scenes as well. The miniatures themselves look very good. Some of the moments with them look very bad. The introduction to the movie is heavy on a miniature sequence that looks just terrible. It's supposed to be building tension, and it was mostly building laughter in my house. It was just terrible. So the other part that's really bad is some of the green screen work here is terrible. There's a moment that I believe James Bond's arm disappeared. He's wearing short sleeves and his arm wasn't visible below the top of the sleeve, so that was bad. And there's a few other moments where it's just like, oh man, that is just bad. You hardly can watch it type of moments. There is some misogyny in this one, no more than you'd expect for a 007 film. And in this one, some of it's played as so blatant that I think it must have been meant as a joke. When You Only Live Twice was being filmed, this was meant to be Sean Connery's last 007 film because he was getting frustrated with the character and he didn't like that Sean Connery was being called James Bond. And so I think it's quite reasonable to think that there are moments in this movie that are poking fun at Bond. And some of these more blatant misogynistic moments, I think, are meant to be doing that. The racial depictions in this film are mixed. I think some of them are good, and some of them are very bad. I think this film could be generously described as racially insensitive. Most of it takes place in Japan, and I'm no expert on Japanese culture, but it seems pretty exaggerated here in many parts. It also seems like they were trying to be respectful often, though. So it's kind of a mix of moments of being respectful while also moments of kind of either fetishizing the Japanese or poking fun at them. The worst moment, though, is when Bond is turned Japanese in order to disguise himself to infiltrate a small Japanese village. It makes sense in the context of the story that he would do this, but it's terrible. The disguise itself is very bad, and it just doesn't work. It's hard to see it as not racist. The only possible explanation in my mind would be that it was meant as a joke again, that it's done so poorly And the sequence of is sort of played as a makeover montage with some lighthearted music. I think it was meant to be funny, but I can't teleport myself back 50 years to put myself closer to the context when this film came out to be able to tell. If they remade this film, they would take this turning Japanese part out. I'm sure of it. It's not critical to the plot, and I don't think if they had left it out and did everything else the same that anyone would have gone, hey, that doesn't make any sense. I think they could have just left this out and had the movie still work like exactly the same. So it's kind of a shame that they put it in there. The language in the film is pretty clean, including, as far as I could tell, no racial slurs, which I was really expecting that there would be. And as far as I could tell, there wasn't, which again suggests to me that they were mostly trying to be respectful to Japan in this movie. Drinking and smoking is scattered throughout the film. Sexual content is pretty tame for 007, and there is a moment where Bond actually accepts no for an answer, which is more than can be said for the previous film, Thunderball. I give this movie a 6 out of 10. If you like Bond, watch it. If you don't like Bond, don't watch it. If you haven't seen very much Bond, don't start with this one. You Only Live Twice is not a good introduction to the series. I think you would probably not continue watching Bond if this was the first one you saw. Thanks.